Good evening, you're watching London Live News at 6 with Tanya Francis. Coming up tonight, 3,000 homes in East London still without electricity as the power network set up temporary generators following a disruptive fire in Poplar. Sir Keir Starmer calls for further transparency as he says Number 10 should share if the PM's wife gets fined for lockdown parties. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, exploring themes of isolation and how women of a certain age are viewed. We'll hear about Sad, the dark comedy coming to the stage in Clapham. And the London Independent Film Festival is back in the capital. The directing duo known as the Shakespeare Sisters will be telling us about their entry, a remake of Much Ado About Nothing. First tonight, here are some of the stories from across the capital affecting Londoners. Temporary generators have been set up to give power to some homes in East London who have been without it since lunchtime on Tuesday. The outage was caused by a fire at an electricity substation in Poplar, which caused 28,000 homes to be cut off. Residents have been told by the UK Power Network that the generators will remain in place for some time as they try to repair the significant damage that was caused by the fire. It's been reported that there are still 3,000 homes without power. A serving Metropolitan Police community support officer has been arrested after a video circulating online shows a man in PSCO uniform allegedly performing a sexual act in a park in London. He was arrested on suspicion of outraging public decency and a criminal investigation is now underway. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has said the public must be told if the Prime Minister's wife, Carrie Johnson, has been fined for breaking lockdown rules. Well, Number 10 are currently saying it will not share the names of anyone who gets a fine over Partygate, with a few exceptions, the PM and Rishi Sunak being two of them. He also renewed calls for the Prime Minister to resign, saying if there has been any criminality in his office or home, he needs to go.
The Prime Minister told Parliament that there'd been no breach of the rules in Downing Street. We've now seen there was widespread criminality. And I'm afraid I don't buy into this argument that that just doesn't matter. The Prime Minister sets the culture. He's the leader of his party, the leader of the country. And if there's widespread criminality in his home and his office, then he should go. If Carrie Johnson gets a fix, my focus is on the Prime Minister because he's the one who sets the culture. He's the one who oversaw this criminality in his home and his office. He's the one that came to Parliament and said that all rules were complied with, which is clearly not the case. So I do think Carrie Johnson should be named if she gets a penalty notice, but my focus is laser-like on the Prime Minister.
Sir Keir Starmer there. Now, the number of people with COVID in London hospitals is at its highest level for almost 2 months. Well, this is according to new data from NHS England. However, of the 2,330 inpatients with the virus yesterday, only 26% had been admitted because of COVID. The rest were getting treatment for another condition. Despite the high levels of infection, deaths are still low. Dr. Jenny Harries, the Chief Executive of the UK Health Security Agency, was on BBC Radio 4 this morning and said immune defences through the vaccination programme has been really successful, along with the treatment plans now available. However, some hospitals are coming under pressure and that should not be underestimated. Now, some other stories. David and Victoria Beckham have had thousands of pounds worth of items taken from their home. The Met Police confirmed a burglary had taken place there on the 28th of February between 8:30 and 11:30 p.m. in the evening. The police have said that they are still investigating the robbery and no arrests at this stage have been made. A 14-year-old boy who had been missing for 10 days has been found safe and well. The Met Police said Rashid El Safi Bakar was last seen leaving home in Brent on the 20th of March. They thanked the public and the media for all of their help in searching for him. He was found in the early hours of this morning. Staying with the Met Police, they have increased the number of patrols dedicated to protecting women and girls against violence after thousands of women said that they feel unsafe. Well, more than 3,000 reports came through the Street Safe website. It's a tool that the Met are using, which lets people anonymously report issues. The majority of the hotspot areas are around town centres and transport hubs, with Croydon being one of the areas most frequently reported. Many of the issues relate to poor street lighting and a lack of CCTV coverage, and men verbally harassing women, according to the Met, with more patrols being sent out in response. Plans have been approved for a group of skyscrapers to be built on the South Bank. The development got the green light from Lambeth councillors, who voted 6-1 in favour of it. Developers plan to bulldoze ITV's former headquarters and replace it with office blocks, which they claim will create 1,000 new jobs in the borough. Residents in the area are against the build and say it'll block out light and views of the river. Now, the Northern Line is being called the Tube's noisiest line after record complaints from people living nearby. In the last 4 years, there have been 282 complaints from residents about the noise and vibrations that the Tube causes. The Victoria Line came in second with 252 complaints, and the district was third with 138. Well, the figures were announced by Sadiq Khan. The Mayor has said TfL have been working hard to minimise the noise in the last 6 months by carrying out 15,000 metres of rail grinding, which smooths the rails, which reduces track noise. Let's give you an update on the weather now, because the warm spell is sadly over and we are in for a chilly few days. Clear spells this evening, with temperatures down to about 2 or 3 degrees by first thing tomorrow morning. Continuing to feel cold tomorrow, mainly dry with some sunshine. Highs of 9 degrees, but the wind will make it feel more like 5, and not a great deal of change for this weekend at this stage. David Bowie is the latest legend to be immortalised in wax at Madame Tussauds. Styled in his alter ego gear as Ziggy Stardust, he'll join a lineup of musical icons. He'll be in good company alongside Freddie Mercury, Beyoncé and Amy Winehouse in a revamped area of the museum at Baker Street. It's called the Music Festival Zone. It marks what would have been his 75th birthday and is the second Bowie waxwork to feature in the museum. Well, it opens tomorrow if you are a fan and you want to check it out. And more stars were out in the capital this week as Jude Law and Eddie Redmayne walked the red carpet at the UK premiere of their latest film in the Harry Potter prequel franchise. Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore at the Royal Festival Hall. Well, the latest film in the magical franchise sees evil wizard Grindelwald, played by the Danish actor Mikkelsen, face off against Dumbledore, played by Law, for the future of the wizarding world.
So much of these films, the process of putting these films together is done in secret. And so there's so much you can't share with anyone, even your loved ones. And at the same time, when we make them, I always feel like our job is to ground them in a sort of reality, in a humanity. And the magic is very much sprinkled on afterwards by the geniuses in post-production, just as they embellish the amazing sets and new worlds that we step in. But the truth is, the magic really happens when we give it back to the community of the wizarding world. And so it's really just sort of sinking in that they get to see it, and their passion for these films and these characters and these projects is so boundless and embracive. It really is, it's a wonderful thing. But it's only really on days like this that sinks in. Yeah. A lot about the empathy that Dumbledore builds on his sort of womb.
But particularly euphoric this time because the making of this movie during COVID, it was incredibly stressful and hugely enjoyable, but there were moments when I wasn't even sure it would make it out into the world. And so I'm thrilled that it has, because I think it's a really cool movie. It's filled with the whimsy and the magic that I loved in the Potter films.
COVID has done some very terrible things in the world, and so our problems were not big compared to most people's with COVID, but we had to change the setting and things were delayed. So it's amazing to be here with all the creators and the fans and finally be celebrating the movie.
Oh, there you have it. We are taking a break, but next, Matt Withers will be here with the latest from across London's papers. He started with a church being evicted to make way for new apartments in Willesden. Hello and welcome back. It's time now for a look at the local papers. Matt Withers was here earlier and took me through his pick. We are going to get started this week with a church which doubles up as a nursery and food bank. They've been evicted in what seems to be quite an unexpected eviction, but is it really?
Yeah, it's slightly complex. It's in the Brenton-Kilburn Times. It's the Pentecostal City Mission Church in Willesden, which has been evicted by a developer. Fruition Properties evicted the church. It says here, without warning, on March the 23rd, they entered the building at 7:30 in the morning, changed the locks, which meant that parents were unable to drop off their children at the nursery there, and staff were unable to retrieve their belongings. It operates a nursery, a food bank, dementia care, and other local community services. A group called Fruition, they sought planning permission a few years ago to knock this down and build one of these mixed-use developments which is popping up all over the place. You know, it's got to have places to live, but also a restaurant, retail space. But a condition was that it would secure space for the church and those associated services. What Reverend Desmond Hall of the church has said is he's shocked and saddened. And the local MP, who's Andy Slaughter, the MP for Hammersmith, said it's unacceptable and quite frankly unbelievable news to hear that the developers evicted a church, nursery and food bank at a time when so many families are under financial strain to put food on the table.
Yes, it does. Although it seemed initially quite abrupt, there does seem to be a bit of history there as to the developers putting their plans forward to do this. It's been happening for a while. So we've heard there from the church and the local MPs. Any reaction from locals or anyone else on how they're feeling about this?
We haven't got that at the moment. We can imagine what the reaction would be. It should quote the Scrubs Lane Limited, who's the landowner that owns the property, because it appears a little less black and white as it initially appeared here. They say that they've been in discussions with the church for more than 2 years regarding leases, occupational rights, and either late or non-payment of occupational charges, even at reduced rent, and that they regret the current situation, but they've been unable to come to a mutually acceptable agreement, and they don't take the decision lightly. They say that they're going to work to see how the nursery and food bank could be relocated. But rather than this coming out of the blue, it does look like there's been a number of years of discussions about possible unpaid rent payments.
Yeah, I think that's probably ongoing, isn't it? Because it sounds like the nursery and the food bank, obviously really essential services
Absolutely.
for the local area. Let's go to Hackney now, where some local campaigners are trying to get the council to go green when it comes to advertising.
Yeah, this is in the Hackney Gazette, and it's right. This is a group that's called Hackney Ad Block, and they're basically campaigning against what's described here as Shoreditch's digital ad spaces, and these would be basically these huge digital billboards that you see in the street now that basically offer you constant stream of advertisements, mainly for fast food restaurants, it appears to me. And they want Hackney Council to implement an ethical advertising policy. So what they did is they covered up a number of these digital billboards in Shoreditch, covered up the ads on there, and instead asked passers-by, what would you like to see here instead of an ad? Put paper up, and they left coloured pens there for people to use, and people wrote down what they wanted to see there instead. They wanted to see more different ethnicities being displayed, poetry, joke dating advice, a seed bank. Somebody put a nail salon, which is a bit odd, brain games, trees, and indeed nothing. So, yeah, it seems that they would just like to do away with these for various reasons. Not least, as you say, it's green. They say here that each of these digital adverts uses the same electricity as 4 British households, which seems phenomenal if true.
The planet is on everyone's mind, so we'll see what happens there. Let's go to Soho. This is a great story. So there's a seagull problem in Soho, apparently.
Yeah,
and,
it would appear so. Yeah, this is South London Press, and this is Westminster City Council. It's hired a hawk to tackle seagulls, which locals say are attacking dogs and people. They've employed this raptor to patrol Soho during the nesting season. It will be encouraged to stop seagulls nesting on and around Kemp House, which is a block of flats in Berwick Street. People have reported that they've seen a series of attacks on passers-by and small dogs. And it says here, and I apologise to anyone having their dinner, that holes have been ripped out of pigeons, which is a very unpleasant sight. So it says here they've now employed the hawk on a fixed-term contract. Unusual idea of the hawk having a contract. I don't know whether it gets holidays and sick pay.
So what duties will the hawk have on this contract of
So basically what will happen now is that a contractor will fly the bird down from the roof of this block of flats 3 times a week, basically to just scare off the gulls. It says here, Raj Mistry, who's the council's executive director of environment, these birds of prey are trained to scare and not kill other birds that can be a pest for people living and working nearby. It's in addition to spikes and netting. And it's happened before. It mentions here that in the early 1990s, well, it says the early 1990s, Ken Livingstone wasn't mayor in the early 1990s, it would have been late. But he did introduce hawks at Trafalgar Square because at that point it was pigeons that were basically overrunning the place and making it a very off-putting place for tourists. And that hawk was used there for a while.
Staying in Westminster, who even knew that this was a title? But as well as being home to some pesky seagulls, Westminster also has Britain's dullest playground.
Yes, this is in My London, and we didn't cover this at the time, but in February they did a story on the website Reddit. There was a playground in St John's Wood near Regent's Canal, and it was voted the dullest playground in the UK with more than 29,000 upvotes, and it was pretty pathetic from the picture. It had one single yellow frame measuring about 6 feet tall. I would imagine it would have given children seconds of fun to climb it. But now that's been removed, so it's now got even worse. And people aren't aware. It was mocked at the time. It was called depressing, and some people said it would be better used as a communal drying rack. But a passerby has now noticed what's described as the sad scene and put it on social media to expose it. They don't know why it's been removed. Westminster City Council haven't commented on that. One local resident, Sue, said, in the last 15 to 20 years, I have seen once or twice a child trying to hang on to it. It probably is one of the worst playgrounds in Britain. And Ziad Al-Anaizi said that all he sees is teenagers here drinking beers, hiding from their parents.
Well, that was Matt Withers there with the latest from across London's papers. Now, 51% of London homeowners have said that they will skip booking their annual gas safety check this year due to the increased cost of living. Well, this is according to the Gas Safe Register, who've launched a new campaign to try raise awareness of the importance of getting your boiler checked. Well, I spoke to Bob Kerr about the Switch Off and Check On initiative and Will Lang from the Met Office about how we can prepare our homes for the cooler weather over the next few weeks.
Normally, as you'd expect, a lot of engineers are busy during the winter period, and that's dealing with breakdowns of appliances and repair work. So they tend to become a lot freer as we get around to spring and summer, and that's where we would normally recommend that most people get their appliances serviced because an engineer is readily available. Also, make sure that our appliance need to go when the demand is a lot higher. However, our research has told us that about a third of people are putting that off. And turning their boilers off sooner because of hiking energy prices, etc. So that's what our campaign's about. Switch off, check on, to get that check done as soon as possible. But we are seeing a little bit of a concern there where people are turning their appliances off a lot sooner.
I can imagine for a lot of people, you think about servicing your boiler when perhaps you're going to be using it a little bit more, as people go into winter periods. What are the kind of implications if you're not carrying out these checks?
Well, it can be quite far-reaching, really. So one is the efficiency aspect. That's the first thing to look at. An appliance that's regularly serviced will be more efficient and thus more cost-saving. But more importantly is the safety aspect. So all appliances should be regularly checked, at least annually. If they're not checked regularly, that can lead to safety issues. And those safety issues can lead to quite extreme circumstances with carbon monoxide poisoning or gas leaks, or in some circumstances, explosions. So it could be a really important factor to make sure that appliance is regularly checked.
Let's just bring you in here, Will. We've had quite a mix of weather, really, haven't we? We had quite a lot of severe weather and then have now gone into sort of an early summer almost. What are your sort of tips, considering everyone's worries around the cost of living at the moment, but for keeping the house warm? We're not quite there yet. We've probably got a couple of months before we see that nicer weather come back.
Well, as you said, the British weather is really, really variable, and that's particularly true at this time of year where we go from blazing hot sunshine into freezing cold with wintry showers, as we're seeing of late, really. And here at the Met Office, we just want everyone to be prepared for that. That's kind of normal for where we live in our part of the world. And our advice is that we should prepare. And we've got plenty of advice on our website. And getting a boiler service is one of those. And as we do move into the quieter months of the year, into later spring and into early summer, that's the ideal time to think ahead and get prepared, looking ahead for the next cold snaps that come towards the end of this year.
The other thing to remember is that most boilers nowadays run all year. They in the old days they used to just run for the winter period to do the heating, and the hot water would be topped up in a different way. But now a lot of the modern appliances run all year. There is something somebody can do is by turning their boiler thermostat slightly down as well, because that will help them save on the energy costs, but keep the hot water as hot as they need to as well. So I think the most important thing is going back to the servicing side of it and to the check. Get these checks done so that appliance can work efficiently. We can go to our website, gassaferegister.co.uk. Put in the postcode for your local area, and it'll bring up all the local qualified registered engineers that can come and do that job for you.
Well, there you go. The campaign is called Switch Off and Check On, if you want to check that out and get any further information. You're watching London Live News with Tanya Francis. A reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, the Red Hot Chili Pipers. Yes, you heard that right. They are back for a one-off gig in the capital. We'll have more from the Scottish bagpipe rock group soon. Welcome back to London Live News. A reminder of some of the top stories affecting Londoners this evening. Temporary generators have been set up to give power to some of the homes in East London, which have been without it since lunchtime on Tuesday. The outage was caused by a fire at an electricity substation in Poplar, which caused 28,000 homes to be cut off. Residents have been told by the UK Power Network that the generators will remain in place for some time as they try to repair the significant damage that has been caused by the fire. It's been reported that there are still 3,000 homes without power. A serving Metropolitan Police community support officer has been arrested after a video circulating online shows a man in PSCO uniform allegedly performing a sexual act in a park in London. He was arrested on suspicion of outraging public decency, and a criminal investigation is now underway. Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer has said the public must be told if the Prime Minister's wife, Carrie Johnson, has been fined for breaking lockdown rules. Well, Number 10 are currently saying it will not share the names of anyone who gets a fine over Partygate, with a few exceptions, the PM and Rishi Sunak being two of them. He also renewed calls for the Prime Minister to resign, saying if there has been any criminality in his office or home, he needs to go.
The Prime Minister told Parliament that there'd been no breach of the rules in Downing Street. We've now seen there was widespread criminality, and I'm afraid I don't buy into this argument that that just doesn't matter. The Prime Minister sets the culture. He's the leader of his party, the leader of the country, and if there's widespread criminality in his home and his office, then he should go.
And why?
If Carrie Johnson gets a fixed penalty notice, of course it should be made public. My focus is on the Prime Minister because he's the one who sets the culture. He's the one who oversaw this criminality in his home and his office. He's the one that came to Parliament and said that all rules were complied with, which is clearly not the case. So I do think Carrie Johnson should be named if she gets a penalty notice, but my focus is laser-like on the Prime Minister.
Sir Keir Starmer there. Now, the number of people with COVID in London hospitals is at its highest level for almost 2 months. Well, this is according to new data from NHS England. However, of the 2,330 inpatients with the virus yesterday, only 26% had been admitted because of COVID. The rest were getting treatment for another condition. Despite the high levels of infection, deaths are still low. Dr. Jenny Harries, the chief executive of the UK Health Security Agency, was on BBC Radio 4 this morning and said immune defences through the vaccination programme has been really successful, along with the treatment plans now available. However, some hospitals are coming under pressure, and that should not be underestimated. Now, some other stories. David and Victoria Beckham have had thousands of pounds worth of items taken from their home. The Met Police confirmed a burglary had taken place there on the 28th of February between 8:30 and 11:30 p.m. in the evening. The police have said that they are still investigating the robbery and no arrests at this stage have been made. A 14-year-old boy who had been missing for 10 days has been found safe and well. The Met Police said Rashid El Safi Bakar was last seen leaving home in Brent on the 20th of March. They've thanked the public and the media for all of their help in searching for him. He was found in the early hours of this morning. Staying with the Met Police, they have increased the number of patrols dedicated to protecting women and girls against violence after thousands of women said that they feel unsafe. Well, more than 3,000 reports came through the Street Safe website. It's a tool that the Met are using, which lets people anonymously report issues. The majority of the hotspot areas are around town centres and transport hubs, with Croydon being one of the areas most frequently reported. Many of the issues relate to poor street lighting and a lack of CCTV coverage, and men verbally harassing women, according to the Met, with more patrols being sent out in response. Right, on to some other news now. You have probably heard of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but have you heard of the Scottish bagpipe rock group, the Red Hot Chili Pipers? Well, after creating the genre bag rock, the group shot to fame since its formation 20 years ago and are celebrating the anniversary with a spring UK tour. Well, they've worked with a host of names from Ed Sheeran to The Darkness and will be coming to Cadogan Hall on the 6th of May. Well, Henry has been speaking to one of the founding members about the group and how they got their name.
Yeah, so it's a mixture between Scottish traditional music, Scottish bagpipe music, and also rock and pop genre. We call it, it's a collaboration, we call it bag rock. So it's like bagpipe music and it's got rock music interspersed. And the reason why we do that is because bagpipe music is really good if you're a bagpipe aficionado, and you could, if you're not, even if you're not a bagpipe aficionado, you could listen to it for perhaps 10-15 minutes tops. But after that, we've found through experience that you really have to start mixing it up to keep the audience's interest. And that's what we do. We call it bag rock.
I want you to take us back to when you were formed, because you must have told this story 1,000 times. Everyone knows the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but you're the Pipers. How did that come to be?
So we never thought, obviously, at the time that we would be touring the world in our own right as a band. If we'd known that, probably in hindsight, which is an exact science, we could have probably thought of a different name. However, we just thought it was typical Scottish humour, tongue-in-cheek, don't take yourself too seriously. And it was a mix-up in the CDs. Stuart, one of our founding and original members, he got his girlfriend Jill to put his CDs in genre order, and he asked her to put traditional music, of which he had loads, in one pile, and all the rest, the rock and pop music, in the other pile. And Jill, she misfiled one of the CDs. She put a Red Hot Chili Peppers CD in the traditional music, and when Stuart picked it up, he says, "Jill, what did you do that for, Red Hot Chili Peppers?" And amongst all the traditional. And Jill said the immortal words, "Oh, sorry, I misread that. I thought that said Red Hot Chili Pipers." And that's where the name was born.
Do you ever get confused for a cover band?
It's happened a few times. Again, because of obviously the legacy of what we had before and to where we are now, nobody would ever have thought that we'd be playing. I'm just back from America yesterday and I'm going back out next Tuesday, but massive audiences. There is a few that still, no matter how careful you are with your advertising, we actually have this thing, we put a picture of a pepper on one side and a picture of a piper on the other side and note the difference. But every now and again you still get the odd person coming up. Now, I mean, I don't know much about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, they're not really my thing, but I guess they wouldn't be playing in small urban theatres with a ticket price of $40. Plus we're so careful in the marketing, but you do get a thing. But then the other thing that comes of that, most people who have bought a ticket thinking they're going to see the Peppers, and you would probably talk about less than 1% of people who make that mistake, because we are very honest and open about who we are. But they actually, there was one that went on TikTok, it went viral, 8.8 million views or something like that. Just last week, we were playing in Midwest in America, and a woman made that mistake, but she decided just to embrace it, and she stayed for her show, and now she's one of our super fans. She loves it.
I did actually see that TikTok, 8.8 million views. You must have got some great publicity from that. But as you said there, she stayed for your fantastic music. What is it about what you do, your shows, that is so attractive? Because it's completely different, isn't it?
Well, the number one thing that we always, and we've taken a great deal of pride in this since we started 20 years ago, the musicians on stage are like top grade musicians. These people don't make mistakes. They're the pick of the crop for Scotland. Most of the musicians have got music degrees. Most of them, say 50% of them, went to the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. The pipers are all hand-picked, so the precision of the music on stage, and you quite rightly there, you called it a show. It's not a gig, it's not a concert, it's more of a show. We've got this amazing lighting engineer, Bob, who comes along and transforms the whole thing from, it's not just watching a band gig, you're watching a show, and the music carries you through, and the music's very, very carefully chosen, and also as a set list. So as the band, as most bands would do, as the show evolves, it gets better and better and better until the very end.
Well, there they are, the Red Hot Chili Pipers. They'll be playing on the 6th of May at Cadogan Hall as part of their spring tour. It's time for a break now, but in the next part of the show, the London Independent Film Festival returns to the capital this weekend. We'll be hearing from one directing duo about their remake of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. Hello and welcome back. You're watching the final part of this evening's show. Now, a wannabe 70s punk living in a fantasy world in her attic is the description for a new character created by the writer and actress Victoria Willing. Gloria takes centre stage in the new dark comedy Sad, which will premiere at Clapham's Omnibus Theatre next week. The production explores the themes of isolation and how society views women of a certain age. Well, Deborah Baker, who plays Gloria, and Victoria have been telling Anthony Moore.
We see the main character, Gloria, sitting in her attic, sunbathing with a sad lamp. So she has gone up there to get away from life, really, and reinvent herself and live in her attic because of how awful the world is out there, really. So that's how we start.
I think a lot of people will be able to relate to Gloria and think I'd quite happily go and sit in my attic.
Exactly.
Do we get a sense of the backstory for Gloria quite quickly, or is it piecemeal?
We get a sense quite quickly, I think, because it starts being revealed quite soon what's driven her up there and what her relationship is with her husband Graham, her partner Graham, they've been together 8 years, and they're both quite old. I suppose they're sort of around late 50s, 60. So, but they've only been together quite a short time for an older couple, you know.
Okay.
So you get a sense of all of that quite soon, I think. Yeah.
Deborah, let's talk about Gloria, your interpretation of her. I mean, from what I can see, we're looking at images of her here. She's eccentric, is fair to say?
I wouldn't say eccentric, I would say she's more free-spirited.
OK.
Yeah, she doesn't really self-edit, you know, whatever she's feeling or thinking, she's going to give out to the world.
Are you able to give us a sense about some of that backstory, or without spoiling this play? Because there has been trauma there for her, hasn't there, certainly?
Yeah, I think it's not just one event that's happened. There's quite a few things that have all sort of happened around the same time, and this is like the culmination where she's gone into this overwhelm and this crisis.
Victoria, is there an element here where you've looked at what we've all gone through and then actually jigsaw pieced some of that together with actually what can happen in relationships as well? Because I think we've all gone through a trauma of sorts, and many people might feel like that.
Yeah, we have. I mean, I'd sort of written most of the play before the pandemic started, so it's kind of a coincidence.
Yeah.
And it's more about the general feeling of isolation and distancing from society that you feel as you get older. So really it's my response, I suppose, to how older people are marginalised, especially women. So as soon as you're not young, you start becoming invisible and you start becoming something separate to what is valid. And so it looks at her struggle to be important, to be valid, to be significant in the world, and that ends up being not only quite moving but also really, really funny. It's a really funny play.
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? That's the hard balance to find there, when you want to be powerful and emotive but also keep audiences with humour.
Yes, yeah, I mean, the humour just came out organically. I didn't try to make it funny. It's just the reality is funny. Look at people trying to struggle in life and do something that gives them meaning. It just ends up being really funny. So she gets herself into situations that are sometimes a bit self-sabotaging, but very funny to watch.
Well, Deborah, I imagine a lot of what you have to bring to Gloria is that kind of element of comedy. Did you go into this knowing that this was going to be somebody who you had to have that light and shade?
I think I'm just playing the character as the character. I think with a comedy, you don't think of it as playing comedy. You're just telling the truth of the story and just the funniness comes out of it. But yeah, she definitely does have a lot of different extremes, I would say, definitely light and shade.
And there's a musical aspect to her as well, isn't there? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so she loves Bowie, she loves lots of music from her youth, and I think she's trying to recapture a sense of that. So in the attic, she often puts music on and tries to remember who she was and what life was about and what she wanted when she was younger. She's trying to sort of recapture her lost self.
Victoria, this isn't a one-woman show. There are other characters that we meet along the journey here. Tell us about them and also how they interact in that space, because it's in many ways a very, isolated set, isn't it?
It is, but it also goes out of the attic at times. So you see the world that is safe and uncomfortable physically, but safe emotionally in the attic. And then you see the world out there and the reality of a housing office, a police station, the workings of society out there. So these characters are both in the attic and outside the attic, except Gloria. 4 characters, all ranging from the age of 40 to sort of 60-ish. So none of them are young, and they're each dealing with what it means to be in society at that age. The 40-year-old woman who is from Slovakia, how does she cope with life now? What is she yearning for? Everyone is a bit lonely and isolated in their way, and they all interact because they all come across Gloria in various different guises. So she's not alone in the attic. In my own small way, that's what I'm trying to do, is to redress the balance a little bit and give a voice to older women and to show them as they really are, not as auntie, granny. There is a lot to give as an older woman, which is just as valid as any age. So I suppose that's my bit at trying to represent that somehow.
Well, that plays Sad. It's on Clapham's Omnibus Theatre from the 5th until the 30th of April. Now, this weekend is the return of the London Independent Film Festival, shining a light on some of the best low-budget independent movies to be made by young up-and-comers in the industry. Well, one of those is a remake of Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing for a modern audience, using the bard's original dialogue to transform it into a teen flick. Well, ironically, it was made by the directing duo the Shakespeare Sisters. Well, the siblings joined James to talk about the feature film alongside one of the leads.
You have put him down.
Some Cupid kills with arrows, some with traps.
It must not be denied, but I'm a plain-dealing villain.
But you've already got so many great reviews for it. Taking on something that's quite a challenge, really, making Shakespeare accessible for a young audience.
Our whole genre of films that we're interested in are kind of like teen movies, rom-coms, that kind of coming-of-age stuff. So we just wanted to set it in our world. Yeah, and it kind of, I guess it felt like it lent itself really nicely to that, just because it's so full of such high emotions and kind of erratic behaviour. And so in a way, it did seem kind of like a coming-of-age teen story to us. So yeah, our take on it is set amongst a bunch of university students, and it kind of just made sense to us in that context.
Which of my bad parts did thou first fall in love with me?
So we used the original dialogue, but we did kind of be quite loose with the interpretation of it, or sometimes editing it a bit, cutting bits out, and occasionally reordering it. So yeah, it's all kind of Shakespeare's language, but trying to sort of see how it would work in the present day, and adapt it so that it sort of makes sense.
And Emma, over to you. Who do you play in the film, and what was it like working with the two girls?
I was straight from drama school, so to get a role like this and a lead in a feature film was, amazing. And then the experiences working with the sisters was so cool, because we all spent a month together, working together, creating together, living, breathing, we were so involved in each other's worlds for that 1 month, and it was an incredible experience. Yeah, it was really awesome.
Tell us a little bit about that experience filming it then, because did everyone live under the same roof? So then sort of everyone's on top of each other, so you're kind of rehearsing in the same space you end up filming. Was that stressful or fun?
I don't know if it was ever stressful. Night shoots are always a bit difficult, I would say, because some people are sleeping and some people are we had a massive party scene that went on till I don't even know what time it would have been, 5 in the morning we were filming. And so not everyone was in it, but most people were. So some people weren't in it and they were sleeping upstairs, and then yeah, it was you'd get dismissed and then you'd be allowed to sleep, but you couldn't really sleep because there was pumping music next door. So that was an experience. But living and working together with the whole cast and crew was so awesome.
Yeah.
But it's also been tiring on back-to-back night shoots, so I think we could all do with a bit of rest.
Yeah, it's very intense, especially for us because we had such a small crew. So we were producing it and directing it and sort of running the house at the same time as like kind of doing the scheduling, and like it was just a lot of I felt like there was never a time that we could like switch off and go to bed. But on the other hand, I think it did kind of like, because the film's set all in one house where people are living on top of each other, so in a way it might have added to the kind of atmosphere that we were all living it at the same time as doing it. Especially with this, like preparing for it together. So by the time we were shooting, we were very much on the same wavelength. We like both knew exactly how we kind of wanted the scenes to go. So I think it just meant that there were two of us trying to explain that to everybody else when it came to shooting. So I think actually it just made things more efficient. Like we are kind of like agreed on everything, I think, most of the time by the time we get shooting. So we both have the same vision, and then it's just two people trying to like communicate that, which I think is more efficient, I think too.
That's Much Ado, and it'll be shown tomorrow at the London Independent Film Festival. Let's give you a reminder of the weather before we head off. Clear spells this evening with temperatures down to 2 or 3 degrees by first thing on Friday. Continuing to feel cold tomorrow, mainly dry with some sunshine. Highs of 9 degrees, but in the wind it'll feel more like 5. Not a great deal of change as we head into the weekend at this stage. That's it from us tonight. Thank you for watching the show. We'll be back with more news from across London at 6 p.m. tomorrow. See you then.